Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. How are you all? Okay, so in today's video, we're going to talk about Natalie Wood. Natalie Wood, for those of you who are younger, Natalie Wood was one of those actresses from that golden generation, from that Hollywood glitz era of Elizabeth Taylor, etc. And Natalie Wood, when I was young, and I was very young, I mean, I'm not quite in her era, but I remember when I was young, any film that I ever saw with Natalie Wood, I just thought how beautiful she was. She was the most, such a beautiful woman, and it was all that. I was born in the wrong era because I love all that. I love all that Hollywood glamour. I would love to be a Hollywood actress, you know, with the makeup and the clothes, etc. And Natalie Wood, she was a child actress. She was, you know, she was born into a family that lived in Hollywood, and she was acting from when, you know, it was like one of the first things that she learned how to do. Life in that environment, in that Hollywood environment, she married or she went out with actors, etc., or people in that Hollywood environment. So she had one of those lives that you might call glamorous, but actually she actually had not only her death, but her when she was young, she had quite a lot of tragedies in her life, or traumatic events is maybe the best. So now, before we start chatting about Natalie and about all the things that happened to her, and why we're talking about her today, because this case, if you like, of Natalie and what happened to Natalie, how she died, it happened a long time ago, but it is still current today. It's still being talked about today. It is still relevant to a lot of the cases that we're following today, particularly the Nicola Bulley case. And that's why we're talking about Natalie Wood today. First of all, I want to thank you all. Thank you to all my subscribers, all my old subscribers, all my new subscribers. I want to thank all of you that have become a member of my channel, gone that little bit further to support my channel. I want to thank those of you who've sent me a Ko-fi or PayPal'd me or sent me a super in any way, shape or form that you've supported my channel. Thank you so much. Please like the videos. If you enjoy my content, the best way you can support me, and also it's free, is by subscribing to my channel and giving my videos a thumbs up. Also participating in the chat, and I can see there's quite a lot of you there already, and I'm going to say hello to everyone at home as well, because I know not everybody wants to join in the chat. People are shy, they're a bit nervous of going into the chat, but thank you for watching anyway, and hi to all of you who are just watching at home. Okay, so let's go and say hello to everyone before we get into this story. Now, this is because I'm not only going to talk about the way that Natalie unfortunately left this planet, which is the main reason of making this video, but there were some things that happened to Natalie which you may or she was her parents, well, particularly her mother, I think, unfortunately, was very keen that Natalie and her sister, who also became a famous actress, but not quite as famous as Natalie, their life was about, you know, becoming famous. That was the environment they lived in. The mother would push her, you know, into going for auditions, etc. And Natalie fell foul of a very, you think Harvey Weinstein is bad, the person that if you like, the only reason I'm thinking is, will YouTube throw me off? The person that sort of committed essay on Natalie, and in fact RAPD'd her, was a very famous actor who also allegedly murdered another actress. And it's not been proven. He was never taken to court. He was never taken to court for any of the RAPEs that he did. But he is an actor who got away with it, who is no longer on this planet. So he was never, ever brought to justice. So we're going to talk about that to everyone first. Hi, Ray. Hi, Jackie. Chatterata. I do like that. Hi, Chatterata. Hi, Rini. Hope you're well too. Hi, Rose. Yes, I think Rose was one of the ones that mentioned about this case and asked me to cover it. It was a little while ago, but you know, whenever you send me sort of information about possible cases to cover or ask me, I always try my best. But you know, and I have, apart from, you know, my day job, because as you know, I have a day job where I teach Spanish. But apart from that, there's so many cases. So, but I always keep them on the back burner. And, you know, if anybody ever mentions a case to me, it's always in the back of my mind. And I've been wanting to do this case. And I knew a little bit about Natalie Wood anyway, but I didn't know the details. So I needed to research it a bit more and also find. And that's what I'm doing tonight. So yes, let's now, well, I'm going to talk about justice for Natalie. But Jackie, yes, she was so beautiful, so beautiful. She was an actress, as I say, when I was a child. You know, although like Elizabeth Taylor and those sort of glamorous actresses, I loved all that. I loved all those Hollywood films. Hi, Rio. What are you doing? No, Rena, you're probably a bit younger. And after tonight, obviously, you will have heard of her. But not only that, you might look back over some of her films because she was a very good actress, apart from everything else. Hi, Vicky. Hi, Julie. You're eating your tea. By Vicky, I mean DMV. Rio's not gone to Kung Fu because she's got virus or flu symptoms. The trouble is that anytime you, this time of year in the UK, anytime you mix with anyone, that's it, you end up with something. Hi, Rachel. Oh, is it breaking up? I don't think it's breaking up or not. No. So I've moved back upstairs now and it seems to be a better signal. Hi, Shelley. Shell. One of my nieces, as you know, I've got many nieces, but she's called Michelle and she calls herself Shell. Hi, Jean. Hi, Chumba. I hope you're feeling better today. I know you weren't too today. Hi, David. I think we all wanted to be Natalie Wood, didn't we? Or Natalie Wood or Elizabeth Taylor or someone like that. And not a ripper. I hope you're not a ripper, lady dog lover. Yeah. Some of the things I'm going to talk about, Rose, so it's not that I'm not commenting on them now, it's just that I'm going to talk about them anyway. Right, I'm working my way down. Oh, I don't know why it's breaking. There's absolutely nothing I can do. Hi, Saskia. I hope you're feeling better. Feeling bad. That's because I was thinking of bad signal. I'm really annoyed if it's a bad signal because is this bloody internet still acting up? And I've brought it upstairs. I don't know why it's acting up now. Oh. Hey, Jean, you've got your big 60th. You're off to Turkey tomorrow. Okay, have a good time. Be good. Oh, God, everyone's got... Yes, the problem that we've got here in this area, as I think I've said moaning about it. It's been taken over by a big company, a little company. It's been taken over by a big company. Hi, Maggie. I have got my goblet tonight. Cheers. Yeah, it's been taken over by a bigger company, but the trouble is that they've sort of absorbed all these extra people, and I just don't think they can cope with it. But, you know, what do I do? What can I do? There's nothing, because it was worse, definitely, in the garage downstairs. And I brought it upstairs, and, you know, there literally is not anything I can do with it, about it. Okay, so I think I've said hello to everyone. So we're going to start now talking about Natalie. So first thing, let's have a look at some pictures of her, and then those that you didn't know, you can see you know, how beautiful she was. But it's not only because she was beautiful. From when she was a child, and she did one of these things that not many actresses, not many child actors managed to do. She was a famous child actor, and she remained famous, and she remained in the public eye and making films, etc., right up to when, unfortunately, she left us. So yeah, you can see she started off when she was a child in black and white photos. This is her mother here, I think. Very influential on Natalie's career. Not only Natalie, but her sister, who's also a famous actress. So yeah, very pretty girl, Hollywood glamour, Hollywood glitz. But not only that, she was a good actress. She acted in many different films. You know, she didn't just play, you know, one type of person. You know, she acted in gritty films as well. She played an alcoholic in one film. She played a stripper in another film. She just was a brilliant actress, very popular. But she was in that Hollywood lifestyle. So let me, while you're looking at some photos of her, just let me read you some information about her. When she was born, etc. And the film she was in, because a lot of the films she was in, you'll have heard of them, and you may have seen them, but you've probably seen, if you're younger, you'll have seen remakes of these films. But she was actually born in 1938, which of course, I mean, if she was still alive today, you know, she would be quite old. If she was born in 1938, I think she'd be about 80 now. But she started acting at the age of 4, and she was in Miracle on 34th Street. Now, even you younger people may have seen this film because it's a very popular. But she was given the role. She was only 8 when she appeared in this film. This film came out in 1947. Now, what I remember her for the most, really, or when I suppose, started registering her on my wavelength, if you like, not because I was alive at the time when this film was made, but when I was a teenager, I don't know why, I got this sort of obsession with James Dean, and his first film was Rebel Without a Cause, and Natalie, she was his co-star in that film. So that's where she first came onto my radar, was when with James Dean, for whatever, I mean, he was already dead by then, but that's just typical of me, always go for the guy, what, you know, the unobtainable guy. You know, it's like even when I was sort of 12, 13, I was already doing that. But I loved he only made 3 films and then he died in a car accident, but he's iconic. I mean, a lot of people will have heard of him even if they're younger, because he was like really, when you think about it, that Rebel Without a Cause, it was about teenage angst and all those sort of things, before its time, if you like. In 1955 that film was made. At the time, maybe even younger, maybe only 16, and she was nominated for an Academy Award in that film. Anyway, then she went on and was in many other famous films. She was in The Searchers, she was in Gypsy Rose Lee, she was in Splendor in the Grass, West Side Story. Of course, many of you will know about West Side Story because that is back on the on the West End, etc. But she was in the original one. She was in various films. So, but during the 19th, called Richard Greg's. Oh no, sorry. She first married. That's when she first married Robert Wagner. Now, Robert Wagner was also a very famous actor, which many of you will have heard of, and many of you won't have heard of. If you're younger, you perhaps won't have heard of him. But I'll show you some photos of him. Robert Wagner. Now, he is 91 now. And he married Natalie when they were both very young. They were like the perfect couple because although he's 91 now, but you can see here what he looked like when he was younger. He was a very handsome guy. And he married Natalie, and they were totally obsessed with each other. But they did split up, and then later they got back together again. Now, you would know Robert Wagner. What would you know Robert Wagner for? Have I got let's see. Have I got, don't know, I've got a film history of Robert Wagner. But what I remember him most for was Heart to Heart, which was like, it was like a detective series. But many years ago. I know a lot of you young people won't remember him, but look at, I mean, he was a very handsome guy. You can see how handsome he was when he was young. And he's not bad now. I mean, bearing in mind he is or he certainly was for a long time an alcoholic. He's not doing that bad really for a 91-year-old. Now, where am I going to go now with this? Because I need to tell you. Oh, so I want to tell you, as I say, a little bit more about Natalie's childhood. Now, her name when she was born was Natalie Zacharenko, and she was born on July the 20th, 1938 in San Francisco, California. She was only 43 when she died. The 29th, 1981, in the Pacific Ocean. She drowned in the Pacific Ocean near Santa Catalina Island. Now, we're going to look at her cause of death, because her cause of death was changed. Initially, it was ruled an accidental drowning, and then later, many years later, and this is still an active case. So I think it's important to remember that although she died in 1923, so many years later, this is still an active case. Because it's thought that she did not drown accidentally, that in fact there were like nefarious reasons why she drowned. Let me just come back to you, make sure you're all okay, make sure I haven't missed anybody. Yeah, Heart to Heart. Yeah. Hi, Julie Ashmore. Now, as I say, oh, Saskia is saying, I hope I've not missed anyone. If I have, hello. That's how I feel all the time. I know I always think I might miss someone coming in. But anyway, I think you're all okay. You're all chatting between yourselves. Now, something that I found very interesting, because when she was 16 years old, she did say publicly she was raped by a very famous actor. But throughout her life, she never disclosed the name of this actor. But since then, her sister has disclosed the name. Robert Wagner has disclosed the name. And not only it was an RAPE, but it was a very violent, traumatic RAPE. And the actor that was accused, well, I say accused, I mean, he's gone now, he's dead. He lived till he was about 140 something. You know, it just shows you how bad people live a long time. Anyway, this actor was Kirk Douglas. And Kirk, you know, I was heartbroken really, because he's another actor that I really like. You know, we've all seen, I think, Spartacus and many films that Kirk Douglas is in, even young people, because it's you know, but apparently Kirk Douglas was an RAPIST. He was known for it. He was a Harvey Epstein, not Harvey, Jeff Epstein, or Harvey, the other one. He was Epstein as well. Anyway, he was known for being abusive to women. And more than that, even with Natalie, there was a young actress called Jean Spangler, who was Murdered. And it's thought to this day that Kirk Douglas actually did that because she had a note with her with the name Kirk written on it. You know, when her body was found, or it was found in her apartment. But anyway, it was found as if she had an appointment, a date with someone called Kirk. So it's not proven, you know, it's supposition. But, you know, bearing in mind that he did violently PE Natalie, it's possible. So she had quite a traumatic adolescence, and apparently when she tried to talk to her mum about that and say what had happened to her, her mum wasn't interested, because her mum was just really interested in her becoming famous, same as her sister. Anyway, maybe we'll never know the complete truth of all that, because, you know, well, she's not here now, is she? Now, as far as relationships in general were concerned, Natalie, of course, the famous relationship she had was with Robert Wagner, because she married him twice. So they were like a little bit like Richard Burton. Once split up and then they got married again, you know, because they were in love. But you know, it must be a very difficult environment, sort of Hollywood environment, mustn't it? Must be a difficult environment to be, you know, married in, if you like. Anyway, so she married Robert Wagner when on December the 28th in 1957. She was only 19 at the time. He was about 10 years older than her. Anyway, it didn't last very long, only 4 years later. They announced their separation and they divorced 10 months later. Now, from what I can gather about Robert Wagner, from what I've read, and again, you know, we have to remember this video is for the purposes of entertainment only. This is information that I've gleaned off the internet, etc. I haven't interviewed Robert Wagner or anyone who's concerned in this case. I'm just going on all the information that I've gleaned on the internet. I forgot what I was going to say now, because I started saying all that. But after, he was a very jealous man. Now, I would imagine, well, I just know, we all know, that sometimes, and certainly in the past, hopefully it's changing now, but often men, if we're in careers, you can imagine it, can't you, in Hollywood? If somebody has a fantastic career, the woman, the man might be a little bit jealous or piqued by it, and this seems to be what happened with them, and he was very jealous of Natalie, apparently. Anyway, after they separated, she dated Warren Beatty. Now, again, I don't know how many of you know about Warren Beatty, but he was the famous sort of Casanova of Hollywood. He's supposed to have slept with millions of women. He was on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, like quite a few years ago. A nice, he was devastatingly handsome when he was young. He had affairs with many, 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 many women. He's still alive, I think. And the song You're So Vain by Carly Simon was apparently written by him. And that's the song I always sing on karaoke. So she dated him, she dated Warren Beatty, she dated Michael Caine, apparently, David Niven Jr. You know, she had various relationships, and then she married another sort of famous, but behind the scenes famous person, Richard Gregson, who was a British producer, and they had a daughter. But she filed for divorce from him. And she divorced him in 1972. So she was only married to him for 3 years. She then had a short-lived romance with politician Jerry Brown, and that's when she renewed her relationship with Richard Wagner. And they remarried in 1972, had a daughter in 1974. Now, it's claimed that she had various affairs while she was with Richard, but again, you know, that's what's claimed by different men. You know, we don't know if it's true. But so then there was a biography made in 2001, and that's when for the first time, this RAPE allegation came out, that she was RAPE'd by a powerful actor when she was 16. Now, she did not name who it was in that autobiography, but it's later on. Apparently he RAPE'd her so brutally, she was actually physically injured, and she was too frightened or intimidated to report it to the police. And that sort of ties in with the fact that possibly Kirk Douglas did MURDER, Gene Spangler. Anyway, so of course, as time went on, I mean, she would have bumped into him, you know, because he's Hollywood royalty, wasn't he? You know, like Michael Douglas is now, Kirk was Hollywood royalty, and she would have bumped into him on many times. But she was told by her mother about the politics in Hollywood, that you would not cross a powerful star. Okay, anyway, so that's her sort of life so far, if you like. Now, what I want to talk about now are the events of the unfortunate, well, it actually happened over a couple of days. So where's my notes? I need my notes now. Let me just come back to you before I start telling this story. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, she was 43 years old. Now, there's a lot said about the fact that she was terrified of water. Apparently, she was terrified of water, but it's quite strange because they had this boat, her and her husband, Robert Wagner, they had a boat. So it just always sort of strikes me a bit strange that they would, you know, I wouldn't like to go on a boat, to be honest, a small boat like that, because I wouldn't mind going on it. It was just by the you know, in the harbour or whatever, but I certainly wouldn't like to go sailing on it because I don't really like boats. So, but apparently she said on an interview at some point that she was actually terrified of what she called dark water. She did not like water. But anyway, they had this boat that called the Splendor. And this was Thanksgiving weekend. Now, what do I always say? There's something about these fiestas, as we call them in Spain, or holidays, bank holidays, whatever you call them in whichever country you live in, anniversaries, Valentine's Day, birthdays, Thanksgiving weekend, Super Bowl Saturday, Bank Holiday Monday in the UK. There's something about these holiday times, Christmas, you know, Halloween. We've got Halloween coming up, haven't we? But do you know what I mean? Do they, these important dates things seem to happen, don't they, around them? Whether it's because people drink a lot on those dates, or that's when they're thrown together, like in holiday times, and that's when resentments, etc., come out. I don't know. But anyway, this was Thanksgiving weekend in 1981. And she disappeared off the Splendor boat, apparently, and it was 6 hours later before the body was found. Right, let's go into what happened that night. We need to look at the background. So on that boat at the time was Robert Wagner, Natalie's husband, Christopher Walken, who's another famous Hollywood actor. I'm going to show you some photos of him. Now, Christopher Walken, oh my God, I loved it. He's one, unfortunately for him, he's one of these people who hasn't aged very well. He was absolutely stunningly handsome, I think, when he was young. But, you know, some actors, like I think, as I say, Robert Wagner, he's aged quite well. I wouldn't say Christopher Walken has aged very well, but he's a brilliant actor. He's an actor that I've always liked. He's been in many famous films. The Deer Hunter is probably one of his most famous films. I liked him in the Stephen King film, The Dead Zone. I mean, he's played baddies like in James Bond films, etc. So as he's got older, he tends to play baddies now because he just looks like a baddie, doesn't he? He's got this chilling look to him. But when he was young, he was very, very handsome, and he didn't look so terrifyingly scary as he does now. But so this is him, Christopher Walken. Now, he was on the boat as well. And this was a very strange thing, I think. I mean, he was in a film. They were producing a film. Natalie and Christopher were in a film together. And she apparently invited him, you know, to come and spend Thanksgiving weekend on this boat with her husband and the captain of the boat, who was Denis Davern. And he was there to do anything, you know, they were there to party. Denis Davern was there to sort of captain the boat, and, you know, but I think he was a friend as well. So it's quite to me, it was quite a strange situation, because you've got 3 men on that boat. You've got Christopher Walken, you've got the captain, Denis Davern, and then you've got Natalie's husband, and then you've got Natalie. Now, bearing in mind that her husband was, Robert Wagner, was so jealous, such a jealous man, was it a good idea to invite Christopher Walken, who at the time was an extremely handsome guy? And there were apparently a lot of rumours that there were sparks flying on this film set that they were doing together, you know, that there was some sort of connection between them. And I think, you know, surely she ran that past Robert, said, do you mind if I invite Christopher? Why did he allow him to come along? So I think there's something a little bit strange there, but maybe I'm reading too much into it. But anyway, that's who were on the ship. It wasn't a ship, sorry, on the boat. Is that what? Yacht. It was a yacht. Now, what's is the first night that they were there on this yacht, there was an argument, there was a fight, and Natalie asked the captain to take her ashore to the island, and her and the captain, Denis, they stayed in a hotel overnight, and he says that during that night that they were in that hotel, I mean, he says they had separate rooms, but who knows? I think this is all a bit strange, all this situation. But anyway, he says that she was saying, I mean, there was alcohol involved. They were all big drinkers. But he said that she was crying on his shoulder, saying she had to leave Robert. She couldn't stay with him any longer. She couldn't put up with him any longer. Apparently, he was very jealous of Christopher Walken being there. But there's really probably a lot of men would not like that. Would you really like that if it was just you, your wife, and two other men, and one of them was this very handsome young actor, successful actor? Because I think at the time Robert Wagner's career was going a little bit down the pan more. He even admits that himself, that he was feeling, what's the word? He was feeling like, his career was going down and hers was coming back up. Then, of course, she's going to be in this film with this guy who's Christopher Walken was on the crest of a wave then. He'd won an Academy Award or an Oscar or whatever for The Deer Hunter. He was getting what they call not posts. He was getting parts offered to him left, right, and centre, and Robert was struggling. So apparently they argued about that. So she asked the captain to take her to the shore. He took her to the shore, to the island. They stayed in a hotel overnight. She, according to him, cried on his shoulder all night and said she was definitely going to leave Robert. She was leaving him. She'd had enough. She couldn't cope with his jealousy anymore, etc. However, the next morning, probably when she sobered up, or I don't know, because as much as I love Natalie, I know she liked to drink herself. So she probably sobered up in the morning and, thought, I'm going to give him a second chance. They went back to the boat. Everything was okay for a while. And then later that day, they went back to they took the yacht over from where it had been over to a more sort of isolated part, and there was a bar there. Natalie and Christopher went to this bar, and apparently they were laughing and joking. Robert again started to get jealous, turned round to Christopher Walken and said, do you want to FUCK my wife? What's up with you? Do you want to FUCK my wife? So there was a lot of, animosity, tension. The captain said the tension, you could feel the tension, and also a lot of alcohol going on as well. I don't think there were drugs going on at the time, not as far as I know, but it could be, you just don't know. So what happened then? Now, this is a bone of contention because people are saying, why? Because that's what the captain was there for, to sort of help with anything to do with the boat. So why did she not the second night? If what happened was true, what Robert Wagner claimed that happened, the dinghy herself and get to the shore or whatever, well, why did she not just ask the captain again to take her? Because that's what she'd done before. So why would she try to do it herself, especially because she was scared of water? Anyway, So let me just, sorry, I'm on my notes here, so I've got to try. And yeah, so that first night, next day she had a change of heart. But as the day went on, everything started to get tense again. And because she was laughing and joking with Christopher Walken. Now, apparently, in the bar that they were in, before they went back to the yacht, they were so drunk in this bar restaurant. All of them, not just Natalie, not just Robert, not just Christopher, not even just the captain, they were all absolutely blotto. The manager of that restaurant actually alerted the harbour master because he was worried that they might not get back to the yacht safely. So it all got out of hand, apparently. So they got back to the yacht safely, but the captain says that, no, this is not what he said at the beginning. Some people say that the captain is trying to make money out of his story, etc. He says he isn't. He says, you know, he just wants to give Natalie a voice. So, you know, it's one of those, the truth is, we have to decide what we feel that the truth is. That after dinner on the yacht, everything just exploded. It all went crazy. And he said that Robert Wagner picked up a bottle of wine, smashed it, and that's when he turned around to Christopher Walken and said, do you want to F-U-C-K my wife or something? Now, Christopher Walken apparently then just went to his room to get out of the way. Now, Christopher rarely talks about this, very rarely. He doesn't want to talk about it, but when he does say, well, I think it's important to say this because we have to say, he does say that he thought it was an accident. But anyway, he goes to his room, so the captain also goes to his room. And in his room, he hears thumping around, fighting, arguing, shouting. And he goes to knock on the door of the room, and Robert Wagner turns around and says, look, just go away. And he says he was so angry, Robert, that this captain himself was actually terrified for his own life. Anyway, you heard more fighting, and then he said they moved to the back of the boat. So he's actually testified it now to say that they did move to the back of the boat. And there are two new witnesses as well now, one of which says that they actually saw them. One says they heard them arguing, another one says that they actually saw them arguing. And then they said everything just stopped suddenly. Now, I have to say here, nobody heard a splash, a bit like Nicola Bulley, no splash. Nobody heard a scream, or as far as I know. But anyway, all just went quiet all of a sudden. So 1 minute they're both fighting and there's all shouting and this, that. An instant, it's as quiet as anything. So, you know, who knows exactly what happened. So let me tell you what happened then. So the captain goes downstairs and to find Robert Wagner crying, drunk and crying and saying, she's gone, she's gone. That's a very cryptic thing here. What does she mean? She's gone, like gone? Or has she gone as in D-A-D? Anyway, and he refused to call for help, according to the captain. So the captain said, look, we need to ring someone. And he said, no, we'll just wait and see if she comes back. Well, where's she going to come back from? Anyway, he wouldn't ring anyone, and he also would not turn on the searchlight, according to the captain. So don't forget, this is just what the captain said. You know, we don't know. It's sort of almost his word against Robert's. But then what strikes me as strange, so if your wife's disappeared off a boat and she hates water, she's terrified of water. So what do? Oh, of course, I'll tell you what you do. You open another bottle of whiskey. So they opened a bottle of whiskey, started drinking, and they drank for an hour before they did anything else, before he rang the Coast Guard. Or I think he rang the police first, and they told him to ring the Coast Guard, and he reluctantly rang the Coast Guard. Now, they found that the dinghy, or the lifeboat from, the lifeboat from that ship or that yacht was gone as well. Now, whether that was already gone, whether Natalie did get on that and try and escape, no, we just don't know. But I honestly cannot see that some. And bearing in mind, listen to what she had on. She had a flannel nightgown on, little socks, and a pink jacket. Now, you talk about a Hollywood actress. Is she going to get in a dinghy in those sort of clothes and try and find her way to the shore? If she was going, she would have done what she'd done the night before, which makes sense, doesn't it? She'd ask the captain, the person who was employed by them, she'd say, look, take me back to the hotel again. She wouldn't have done it herself. I don't believe she wasn't someone who was used to boats, etc. herself. She'd go on the boat, but they always had a captain who did anything that needed to be done. She didn't actually do anything to do with the boat. So yeah, she had a flannel nightgown on, blue wool socks, and a red down jacket. Yeah, I don't think, bearing in mind, take all that into like one thing in itself, but she hated water. She was dressed for bed. There's no way she's got in that lifeboat and tried to get away herself, but could have been accidental. So this is what some of the, like what Christopher Walken is saying, and what Robert Wagner says, that the boat, they think that the dinghy was this is something that Robert started saying later on. He didn't say this from the beginning, that the dinghy had come loose from one of its ropes or whatever, and it was banging against the awake, and so she tried to reattach it and slipped into the water. This is another thing that's been said. But again, what a load of rubbish, because she's got a captain there. She would have got the captain to do it. She'd been tapping it, the guy she's paying to do it. She'd be tapping on his door and saying, oh, look, this is driving me mad. Can you go and sort it out? She ain't going to go and try and sort it out herself. She might have been on a boat, but she wasn't like a boat person, if you see what I mean. She wouldn't have gone off on a boat on her own. I mean, it just seems ridiculous. Anyway, finally, when the Coast Guard were called 6 hours later, sorry, it was an hour later when they rang the Coast Guard, but 6 hours later from the Coast Guard going out looking, poor Natalie was found in that drowned person position, like they talk about, sort of, we've looked at, I don't want to go into gory detail, but Nicola was not found like that, let's just say. But, I don't know what that means or doesn't mean, but, people who drown, they adopt this position of like they're floating face forward, arms hang down. That is literally accepted as how people are normally found when they've drowned. And I think it's important, in Nicola's case, she was not found like that. But she was never floating down the river anyway. Right. So, yeah. So they found Natalie within 6 hours, and this was in the Pacific Sea. Couldn't find Nicola Bulley in 23 days in a tiny river with loads of bends. So the dinghy was found on rocks a little bit further south. And then another thing that just totally blows my mind, Robert Wagner and Christopher Walken, They left and they got the captain to, well, more Robert Wagner, because bearing in mind this is his wife, he asked the captain to identify the body. Now, she hadn't been in water for days and days. I mean, I would imagine, like with someone like Nicola, after 23 days, there wasn't much to identify. That's why she had to be identified by her dental records. You know, not meaning to be gruesome, but that is just the plain facts. Whereas Natalie had not been in the water very long, you know, in comparison. So really, I was thinking about it. I was thinking, if it was my partner, I would, I know this sounds ridiculous, but I would actually want to identify him. Not that I would want to identify him, but, you know, for my peace of mind, that I knew that that was definitely them and not anybody else. And also to give him a final sort of, I don't know, a hug or something, or at least to see them, even if you couldn't bring yourself to actually hug them or whatever. Because depending on her condition, but how could you leave somebody else to identify them? So Robert Wagner and Christopher Walken were gone, and they left the captain to identify poor Natalie. And this is the woman that he's been married to twice and he's got children to, and he just pissed off back to wherever, probably on the lash again, with the guy that he didn't even like, apparently, because Christopher Walken was supposedly the friend of Natalie and not the actual friend of Robert. Just, it's unbelievable for me, to be honest. And then apparently he talked to everyone and made sure that they all told the same story. And they were breaking, you know, there was an investigation, but it was a really totally half-hearted investigation. They just took his word for everything. There were breakages on the yacht of things, but he said that they were just caused by rough seas, etc. You know, and he played down the argument that they'd had, etc. The detective at the time, who is now no longer with us either, he will know the truth now, I suppose. I bet he's kicking himself. He just accepted that it was accidental death, as did the coroner, who said it was accidental drowning, and the case was closed. And the case may have remained closed if it wasn't for the captain, who then later on down the line started ringing Natalie's sister Lorna when he was drunk. I mean, there's obviously some alcohol issues going on in this whole thing. And started ringing Natalie's sister and saying, you know, starting to tell her the truth, or what he thought was the truth. Now, I just want to show you, because as you know, in America, coroner's reports are public. So we have the coroner's report and we can look at it. It's available online. So where are we? So we're on the 29th of November. I mean, it's quite cold time of year, I would imagine then. 1981 at 8:30 in the morning, she was found dead by the LA County lifeguards. And her name, Natalie Wagner, also known as Wood. Date of death, etc. Now, actress, married, then it's got her address. It's very sad, isn't it? Anyway, going down here. So identification was done by Denis Davern. I just cannot believe that Robert Wagner did not want to identify his own wife. I'm absolutely sort of amazed by that, to be honest. And then it goes on to give details of this, that, and the other. Right, let's read the main thing. Decedent is actress Natalie Wood, who, along with her husband Robert Wagner, a friend, which is Christopher Walken, and the skipper of the Wagner boat, was spending the weekend at Catalina Island. In the early morning hours of Sunday, November the 29th, 1981, sometime after the group had returned to the boat, which was moored off the isthmus, I think that's an island, Mr. Wagner became aware that his wife and the boat's dinghy were both missing. Mr. Wagner immediately radioed for help. Well, that is not true. It was an hour before he radioed for help, and a search was begun. Mrs. Wagner's body was spotted from the air by a sheriff's department helicopter that was en route to the island to assist in the search. LA County lifeguards and 2 private searchers were the first ones to reach the body of Mrs. Wagner and pulled her from the water, and she was pronounced dead at 0744 hours. Spoke with Don Whiting, night manager of Doug's Harbour Reef, who related the following. Mr. Whiting arrived to work between 16 and 17 hours, and the Wagner party was already in the bar and had been drinking. The party remained in the bar till approximately 19 to 19:30 hours, at which time they were seated for dinner at the same location. During the course of the dinner, Mr. Whiting estimates that the group consumed a couple of bottles of champagne, which is not a lot between 3 or 4 people, but, who knows what they'd had before or after that. Mr. Whiting says the group left the restaurant to return to their boat at approximately 22 to 22:30 hours, and that the entire group appeared to him to be intoxicated. Mr. Whiting at this time called Kurt Craig of the Harbour Patrol, asked him to make sure the group reached their boat safely, which Mr. Craig is reported to have done. Spoke with Mr. Wagner, who related that the first time he remembers seeing his wife was at 22:45 hours. Mr. Wagner, when he realised his wife was missing, placed a radio call for help. Don Whiting heard Mr. Wagner's radio call for help. Mr. Whiting lives on a boat and during his waking hours always monitors radio. At approximately 1:30 hours, and in turn called a friend on the Isthmus or whatever, I think that's the island, to go onto the Wagner boat and advise him of the situation and if a search should be started. When it was determined that indeed the dinghy and Natalie Wood were missing, search was begun with Harbour Patrol, blah, blah, blah. Mrs. Wagner's body was found approximately 200 yards off the Blue Cavern Point Isthmus area of Catalina Island and north of where the dinghy was found. Now, I was going to say something then. You would want to find your wife, wouldn't you? Unless you knew what had happened to her. This is what it seems to me. Why was he not bothered about going out and finding her? Because he knew what had happened to her. That's the impression I get. So, Mr. Wagner was also questioned regarding the possibility of suicide. However, he states his wife was not suicidal. Don Whiting was one of the private searchers who located the dinghy and says that the key was in the ignition, which uses in the off position. The gear was in neutral and the oars tied down, and it appeared as if the boat had not even been used. So this is what the captain is saying, that Robert Wagner released that boat so that it would look as if she'd taken it. Anyway, it had been taken from the ocean and placed in the chamber building for safe keeping. I don't think she wrapped in a plastic sheet. She was dressed in a flannel nightgown and socks. The jacket that she was wearing when she was found floating is no longer in the body, having come off when she was pulled from the water. At the time she was pulled from the water, the body was absent of any rigor, and they noted foam coming from the mouth. Descendants still has foam coming from mouth. Rigor is now present, blah, blah, blah. Now, this is important. Decedent has numerous bruises to legs and arms. Decedent's eyes are also a bit cloudy appearing. No other trauma noted, and foul play is not suspected at this time. I just don't understand when a body can have numerous bruises that they say no foul play is suspected. What is that? Anyway, it goes on to give you the actual report. Let's see. Where were the bruises? So she was found floating face down in the ocean. Very sad, isn't it? Very, very sad. Yeah, it's quite a comprehensive report. I don't want to read out the whole thing, but you can find it online. Just goes over everything that we've already said. Yeah, it's quite, it's quite long, so I'm not just going to sit here and read it all out. But if you go onto the internet and just key in Natalie Wood coroner's report, it will come up, bless her. I was just looking for the bruises. Yeah, also, it looks as though Miss Wood drowned within a short time of her entry into the water. The location of the bruises, the multiplicity of the bruises, and then it says lack of head trauma or facial bruising support having occurred prior to the entry into the water. Since there are many unanswered questions and limited additional evidence available, it is opinionated by this medical examiner that the manner of death should be left as undetermined. Oh, so this must be the second. Yeah, this was in 2012. So they then concluded the cause of death will be changed to drowning and other undetermined factors. Manner will be changed to undetermined. How injury occurred will be listed as found floating in the ocean. Circumstances not clearly established. Yeah, exactly. Who does it remind you of? Well, yeah, you're right, Rose. Wagner had no bruises, so apparently. So, okay. So let me go back to my notes now and see what happened up. So, but that was only in 2012. So bearing in mind this happened in, was it 1971 or 1981? 1981, so it wasn't till 2012. Now, you know what my maths is like, it's rubbish. 30 years later or whatever, but it was changed to that. Well, I hope we don't have to wait that long in the NB case, because I won't be here for a start unless I live, unless I'm still here at 100 and something. Yeah, now it needs to be said that the statute of limitations has run out on this case, except for murder. MURD. I don't know why I spell it after I've said it, because I've already said it. So the statute of limitations for anything else has run out. So the only charge left that's possible to charge Robert Wagner with is MURDER. Everything else, like attempt, what would it be, manslaughter, or anything accidental, or blah blah blah. Statute of limitations has gone on that, so he can't be charged for anything, any of those things. He can only be charged with MURDER. Now he is now 91 years old. he will not, he refuses to speak about this case at all now. He's talked about it a lot over the years. He's written books on it. You know, but now he won't, since he's been declared, and he has been declared as a person of interest now. So not a suspect, that's different, but a person of interest in this case. And it's still being investigated. But it's a problem because of his age, isn't it, really? And if he won't answer any questions, Christopher Walken won't talk about it. Natalie can't talk about it. So, having said that, they do have the captain who will talk about it and these other witnesses. It's also important to remember that the children, Natalie's children, you know, they support Robert Wagner. They, you know, but that won't be the first time that children do that. Because obviously it's difficult to say that you think your father is, you know, MURDERED, your mother. But the children are firmly on his side. So, you know, that's important to remember. Another thing that's important to remember is he has admitted that he feels guilty about it. He does have a responsibility because she was his wife. He had a responsibility to keep her safe. This is what he actually said. He has a responsibility to keep her safe. He didn't keep her safe, but that's as far as he goes with it. She had 2 children with him, Jackie. She had other children as well. I don't know what they think about it. Children that she had with, you know, a previous husband. I don't know how they feel about it, but the children that she had with Robert Wagner, they support him. But Rose, didn't she have other children, or was it just one daughter with him and one daughter with her first husband? I know she had children with, but anyway, they support him. So, right, okay, what else have I got to show you? Right, we've gone through the coroner's report. Talked about Christopher Walken, and just incidentally, Christopher Walken, he's been married to his wife now, like for about 50 years. You know, he's got one of the longest lasting marriages in Hollywood, and he's known to be quite eccentric. He will not talk about it anymore whatsoever. He said he talked about it 30 years ago. He's not prepared to talk about it anymore. Robert Wagner won't talk about it anymore. And Robert Wagner currently is married to Jill St. John, who you may have heard of. She must be she's a famous actress. She must be bobbing on a little bit now as well, but they're married and they're like, you know, she's supporting him. Just very sad for Natalie. I just feel for Natalie, not only because of this, but because of what happened with Kirk Douglas. You know, I wonder if that'll ever come out. And of course, the other girl that was murdered, and it's thought to be Kirk Douglas who murdered her. And are there any others? I mean, the thing is, these things get hidden. Kirk Douglas comes from an era. Again, now we've had the Me Too movement, you know, with Harvey Epstein and Brian Epstein and all the, you know, there's so much more awareness now. But we're talking about a time, you know, in the 50s where, you know, Kirk Douglas, he would have been like king, wouldn't he, after Spartacus and all that. He was a famous actor. You know, who do you go to when you're a 16-year-old girl? Your own mother doesn't want to know because she just wants you to be famous. And this guy who's, you know, we've seen it with Savile and all that. This is what power. What do they say? Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So I feel for her for that as well. And then she ended up with this tosser. Sorry. Anyway. Douglas and Jean Spangler thing. And if there were any other maybe people, women that claimed that Kirk Douglas had, you know, done something. Right, let's just, so let me just tell you, now, on her 18th birthday, she had a date with Robert Wagner, who was best known at the time for his role as Jonathan Hart on the television series Heart to Heart. He was 8 years older than her, not 10. I thought he was 10 years older than her. But anyway, they got married in 1957. He wasn't doing Heart to Heart, and I don't think that happened. But it was a very, I wonder what happened there, because, they were only married, you know, a couple of years. And there is, that's another witness that has come out, a neighbour, not from that time when they were married, but later, has come out and said that one night, and this young lad, he was only 12 years old at the time, she came running to their house, his family's house, banging on the door, saying, please help, he's going to kill me, and ended up staying overnight at their house because she was so terrified of going back home. And anyway, in the end, as a lot of abused women unfortunately do, she went back home. So I think they're, I think, you know, there was DA in that relationship, definitely. Right, so she had one daughter with Richard Gregson, and then she had one daughter, Courtney, with Robert Wagner, and he himself had an older daughter, Katie, who was born to his earlier marriage to actress Marion Marshall. Yeah, so sorry, it wasn't Thanksgiving weekend, it was the weekend after Thanksgiving. So, because I was wondering how it ended up with just them on this boat. Well, apparently they'd invited several people onto the yacht, but a few declined because there was bad weather predicted, and only Christopher Walken accepted. Well, don't forget, he was currently working with Natalie on the science fiction film Brainstorm. Now, it's said that Natalie had fallen in love with Christopher during the filming of this film. Now, if you see some of the photos that you see of her next to him, she does give him a very adoring look, I've got to say. And apparently other people say she was a bit jealous over the relationship with Wagner, Robert Wagner, and his Heart to Heart co-star Stephanie Powers. God, I used to love that Heart to Heart. I mean, I was young. Very young, but I loved it. I absolutely, when they met, it was murder. I mean, I just loved that program. But yeah, it sounds like there was a lot of alcohol going on. I mean, will we ever? It's one of those. Will we ever know the absolute truth? But I don't know. But people reported hearing shouts, hearing a woman yelling, "Help me! Someone help me, I'm drowning." A drunken man mockingly responding, "Okay, honey, we'll get you." These are reportedly what people heard that night. And the cries reportedly went on for half an hour. But there was a party going on another boat, so the couple didn't think much of it. You know, I don't know. But basically, her blood alcohol level was at least 0.14%. She had relatively fresh superficial bruises on her arms and lower legs, plus a cut on her cheek. And these were attributed initially to her fall in the water. And everyone's saying that she slipped for some reason because she tried to board the dinghy and she slipped. What was I going to say? Maybe she was so scared of water when she was young. Maybe she had a bit of a premonition of what was going to happen to her. Now, the thing is, obviously, her bruises, she was found relatively quickly, so her bruises were identified. But even after all those 3 weeks that Nicola Bulley was in the water, her bruises were still identified. So basically, that's it. Oh, I think I'd like to show you this picture, actually, that I'm looking at. This is the picture that I mean when I look at it and I think, oh, I think she probably was in love with it, Christopher Walken. I know she's an actress, but I think that is an adoring look that she's given him. And I mean, look at him, he's very handsome. He's quite enigmatic, isn't he? I mean, as I say, he hasn't aged well. But at that time, he was. And she is giving him that glad eye look. She's giving him the glad eye. So maybe she was in love with him, and maybe, you know, that was the jealousy thing going on. Now, maybe, who knows? Who knows? But anyway, it's been, you know, oh, she's so beautiful. And also, yeah, she does have it, Jackie, you're right. She does have this look of innocence about her. You know, I think child stars, they quite often have this childishness about them, don't they? You know, a lot of famous people, if they were famous when they were kids, they never seem to sort of move on from that. But, and I thought this was interesting, what somebody said, was that there's been so much speculation and focus on how Natalie died. It has overshadowed her life's work and who she was as a person. She was a really good actress. I saw a film, I can't remember what it was called, but it was a film about where she did play an alcoholic mother, and she was brilliant in it. So, okay, I think that's it. That's it. Hi, Heather. Chumba, what, Christopher Walken? Don't say that. Well, maybe bats for both sides, who knows? Medium predicted drowning. Okay, hi Yvonne. I've just seen that you popped in somewhere along the line. And I may have missed other people coming in. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, that's the story of Natalie Wood. And, you know, with the best will in the world, to be honest, Robert Wagner, he is 91. Are they ever going to really, you know, take him to court and charge him with murder? I don't know. But you know what? I think it's enough that he knows that he's on the, what's the word? He's on the spectrum, he's on the radar. Let him worry about it. You know, I hope he's fucking worrying about it. I hope he's looking over his shoulder every day thinking, is the arrest going to come today? Am I going to spend my last years in prison? Because he's had a nice life, you know, for this past 40 years or however long it's been. He's had a great life. So, yeah, I hope he's not sleeping at the moment. If he did it, I hope he's not sleeping at the moment. I mean, I do believe that he will get his comeuppance anyway in the next life, but better that he gets it in this life. Hi, Ocean Bloom. Yeah. Well, do you know what? I think you're right. I mean, I think we always look at famous people and think they've got these fantastic lives because, especially in those times, when everything was the Hollywood glamour, and you know, now I think we know all the nitty gritty, don't we, about actors and actresses? Perhaps we know too much now. We've lost that mystery of it as it was then. You know, it was like they were all just beautiful, and you know, but obviously that wasn't what was really happening behind the scenes. But yeah, he'll probably go to his grave without a day in jail for it, but he will get his comeuppance. I believe that anyway. But so again, as always, thank you so much for being here with me. I think I'm glad that, I've been wanting to do this for quite a while, but it took quite a little bit of research just to get all the dates, etc. And there were things that I knew already, but there was a lot that I didn't know. I knew about Kirk Douglas and the possibility that he murdered Jean Spangler, but I did not know about this thing with Natalie. And now I just hate him even more, but he's already gone on to the next world. I think he was 101. Michael Douglas, his son, he's probably done similar things, I would imagine. It probably happens a lot, like we're saying, a lot in Hollywood. This with Harvey Epstein has sort of, hopefully changed things. Oh, and something I just wanted to mention before I go, I get onto tangents. What do you think about this Alec Baldwin thing? I said right from the beginning, I think Alec Baldwin did that on purpose with the shooting of that woman. Oh, I shouldn't say that, but he's going back, isn't he? To it's going to be looked at again. I've said straight from the beginning, there's something fishy about this. But anyway, we'll do that on another night. So thank you so much as always. Thank you for all my subscribers, all my members, everyone who supported my channel in any way. Hasta mañana. See you tomorrow with another video. I'll probably end up driving you mad in the end. A Wednesday's a busy day for me. I have a lot of classes on a Wednesday, so possible I might not see you on Wednesday. For you members, remember Thursday, Mass, Halloween, whatever, anything, okay? Oh, Chumba, when you see David's new mask, you've got to get a new name for him. Okay, so thanks all. Cheers, enjoy your evening, and until I see you again, may your God go with you. Thank you, Hannah. Night, night, all. Adios. Yeah, I think he's guilty too. Adios.